Again, we must remember that critical race theory began in the legal realm out of frustration that African Americans were not experiencing the promised gain through the civil rights movement. One of the ways they sought to remedy the problem of blacks not getting their fair share of opportunities when it came to colleges, universities, and the marketplace was to fight for what we would call affirmative action, which is intentionally targeting underrepresented people for consideration when it comes to admission into schools and jobs. The NFL employs this method with their highly publicized Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview candidates of color whenever there's a coaching vacancy. Now, of course, affirmative action has become controversial, accompanied by cries of "not fair" by our white siblings. This is interesting because the subtle message of these cries is white innocence. When a person doesn't see themselves as white, they don't see themselves as being a part of an unfair system. And for sure, if they don't see the notion of systemic injustice, they will not be pleased with affirmative action. So a few things need to be said here. First, affirmative action is not the brainchild of critical race theorists, nor is it birthed out of a group of frustrated minorities. If by affirmative action you mean targeting a specific group for opportunities, then we must come to grips with a very hard truth. Whites have been doing this since our nation's inception. Tell me, what kind of person could only be president in 1865? Or what kind of person could only vote in 1932? Or what kind of person could only play in the major leagues in 1909? If you guess whites, tell them what they want, Alex. That sounds like affirmative action. So I want you to imagine you're playing in a football game. First half of the football game, the other team is getting all the calls by the refs. I mean, all the calls. They are cheating you out of everything. And because of that, you're getting beat 50-0 at the half. The referees come into your locker room at halftime and they apologize. Man, we are so sorry. We have wronged you. They write a nice apology statement. We have wronged you. And we want you to understand, moving forward, we are going to call it fair and even. Are we good? No, we're not good. We're down 50-0. So what are we to do? You'll have to slant things to the other side for a while. Not fair, but neither was the whole first half. This is what affirmative action is trying to do. So how are we as Christians to think about affirmative action? Well, and this is probably the most controversial thing I'll say to you in this lecture. What I've just described to you is the doctrine of election. The doctrine of election says we were all enslaved to a system called sin. Sin has not just colored our actions, but our affections and our hearts as well. Sin colors all of who we are. If sin were blue, we'd all be Smurfs. Now, the effect of this was to completely render us helpless and hopeless, unable to get to heaven in God on our own. Seeing us in our helpless condition, God came down and put on skin, walked with us, preached to us, and ultimately died for us, raising again the third day according to the Scriptures. And while Jesus died for the world, the doctrine of election says he has chosen some. We were chosen not because we were good little boys and girls. We were chosen not because of the letters behind our name or how smart we were or what zip code we lived in or what we did for the poor or the ethnically other. We were chosen solely by the grace of God. Just like affirmative action gives people opportunities they would not have gotten otherwise, so election gives us an opportunity we have not gotten otherwise. Let's close with this. When I was in seminary, I shared earlier today, I was dead broke. I was po. Couldn't afford the other O and the R. I received a scholarship only for people of color like myself. See, my school at one time did not let African Americans join. And so they wrestled with their racist past and decided to have a form of reparations by offering black people a scholarship. I'm standing here today because of that kind of reparations. And I hate admitting it to you, I got a scholarship for something I had no control over, being black. There's no boasting here. Boasting is in merit-based scholarships. That I got in with a 4.0 and maintained a 4.0, that's the boasting. Well, friend, the gospel says there are no merit-based scholarships in the kingdom of God. Only grace-based. There's no boasting in that. Only giving glory to this remarkable God who through the cross dismantled the system of injustice called sin, blessed us with a beautiful inheritance reserved in heaven for us, gave us affirmative action through salvation, and now calls us to steward our heavenly privilege in such a way that others benefit.